Alright, before I start, this is a spoiler heavy review, so do not watch this unless you completed the entire campaign. Don't say I didn't warn you. Spoilers. Also, just to preface this review, I spent about 70 plus hours with the game. I really enjoyed my time with it. I plan on playing even more, but it just so happens that the videos I took were mainly about my frustrations, so it's going to be frustration negative heavy on the game, even though I really enjoyed the game. I more enjoyed it than I didn't enjoy it, so just know that going forward.
I was drunk, but I never forget my manners.
Red Dead Redemption 2 is carried by its open world and its graphics. And it's vast, it's beautiful, immersive, authentic, all that good stuff. Every time I booted it up, I was immediately into it, and I couldn't wait to explore it. It even got to the stage where I'd be planning out my days. I'd go to the barber for a shave, and I'd not get myself clean by having a bath afterwards. Pick up some fishing bait and head off fishing. And, that'd be just the morning. The things you see, the characters you encounter, the secrets that are there to find, the environments you and your horse are trudging through, they all really do add up to a stellar open world experience. I can't praise it enough for that. So I won't. I'll be mainly focusing on the negatives here, but I can't speak enough of the positives. For example, here I'm just taking in the rain, the lighting effects, the thunderstorm was going on in the distance. I stopped off just to take in all the world that was happening in front of me, and I felt soaked and just felt into it, super into it. It's excellent. Here I accidentally jumped off a building, but then the muck that was on my back afterwards was like exactly where it would be and stuff like that, and it stayed there until I cleaned myself. Encountering these gentlemen.
Easy. You think that's enough?
I reckon too little's better than too much, right?
Is that what you say to your wife? Hey there!
What the?
Maybe I got in their heads.
But even in the open world, there's flaws. Not really knowing what to do in certain situations, how to affect your honor, stuff like that. In this example, there was a farmer being attacked, so I killed all the fellows attacking him, and then I went up to talk to him, and the interaction button is L2, which focuses on the character you want to talk to, and then you can say something. But L2 is also aim weapon, and because I forgot to put away the gun, I accidentally aim at this farmer instead of interacting with him, and this happens.
I told him where to stick it, and well...
Hey, what the hell do you think you're doing? Ah! Yep.
Here a guy is shouting out for help, so I turn to help him.
Can I get some money here, please? Hey! Here we go, Rex! I'm gonna help the fella out.
Similar thing where I found a wounded man out in the wild, and I was bringing him to a doctor, and I was rushing him because he was dying. This happens.
I'm dying. This is it. What's happening?
No. You gonna get some lead in that head of yours.
I found this wolf man howling naked running through the wild, so I tracked him down to his cave, and then this happens. I get bad honor for killing the wolves, so it's pretty much don't interact with this guy, but how am I supposed to know that? I wanted to see what happened with this guy. Here I get ambushed by the Murphy brood. It's pretty cool. They send on like a flaming car to block my path. My horse bucks me off, so I go to equip my weapons and I run off to the right to, get some cover. But then I run into one of the berserker guys or whatever, which I hadn't encountered before. He just ganks me, and then, like, what was I supposed to do there? And then in this last clip, I helped this man by giving him money, get the honor up, and I just turned, and knowing my horse is behind me to get on him, press triangle, and then I just grabbed this guy by accident, and assault, have to flee again. This type of thing happens over and over again. It's really frustrating. Okay, so here I just loaded into the game and I wanted to go around to talk to the people to reacquaint myself with the game, what was going on.
You're very welcome.
And as you'll see here in a second, while I'm mid-conversation with Dutch, it cuts to the autosave screen, and that happens every time you boot up the game after a few seconds, and it's really annoying.
So, we did pretty well out of that train.
Just a comparison thing here with Red Dead 1. In Red Dead 1, when you ran forward like this and called the horse would run up alongside you, and in motion you could get on it and gallop off, and it felt really cool. And also when you were getting off the horse in motion, the character would jump off and do like a slow down running thing. It's a small thing, but it's not here, and it's noticeable. Here I'm doing a challenge where I have to shoot 5 birds off of a moving train, which is a bit silly in the first place, but I see one anyway, and you'll see what happens. Pretty funny, but annoying in the context of what I was just trying to do. And also this train took me into Saint Denis, which I hadn't been before, and the cops were alerted to me straight away, because as soon as you're on the train it counts as a train robbery. It's just annoying. You can go into cinematic mode and do like auto galloping, but then stuff like this happens where you run into guys unintentionally because you're not controlling it. They start shooting at me. I'm playing as a good guy, trying to defend myself. I shoot them, get bad honor. I didn't know what to do. Do I reload the game? I didn't want to do that. I didn't want to lose the honor either. It was just a disaster. So basically, even when you're in auto run, you have to watch it because stuff like this happens. I love the hunting in the game, it's one of my favourite things, but even that had frustrating elements. Like, I came over the crest of the hill here, see some deer, but they ran away even though I wasn't that close to them, they got spooked. But fine, I go into binoculars to check their pelts, but now they're too far away because I spooked them to check them on the binoculars. So I eventually catch up, go into binoculars, find that the deer ahead of me has a perfect pelt, which is ideal. I pressed L1 and down to get my gun out, but because I was in items last, it goes to camp instead of gun, and that despawns the deer, takes me away from them. Now I have to find the deer again, hopefully one that has perfect pelt, and it's just super annoying. Here I'm hunting the legendary bear, and legendary animals don't have pelt quality, so you can use whatever weapons you want against them, which kind of takes away from the enjoyment of it. And also, once you get the pelt, if you die or you lose the pelt somehow, it doesn't matter because it just spawns in the inventory of the trapper or the fence, and the legendary animals don't respawn either, so you basically just have to kill them in whatever way you want and don't worry about it afterwards. So knowing that, I just messed around here and did this. Here I'm treasure hunting. I used an internet guide to find the location because I challenge anyone to find these locations themselves. It just happens to be here. I almost missed it. It's here. And then after this, I'm trying to get off the rock, which was really hard to get to in the first place. And I thought that I would just go down here. I thought that that's what you were meant to do. That was not what you were meant to do. I still got the treasure. Here I'm trying to chase these beaver out of the water, because if you shoot animals in the water, their bodies go underwater and you can't get their pelts. That's besides the point. The stamina on top left of the minimap there, it drains super quickly when you're swimming, So I noticed that in a second, and I'm going to cut the clip just because it goes on for ages. After frantically using potions and all sorts to keep myself alive, this is what happens. This is a tiny thing, but it happens a lot in the campaign where I'm following this guy. He goes ahead of me, turns around, I slow down automatically, cuts to us in a different position. It's tiny, but it happens a lot in the story. Here I'm just minding my own business, going about the wilds, and this happens. I just get a wanted level for no reason at all, and I have to like escape the police, go to a post office and pay a bounty for doing nothing. On the topic of the police, just check this bit out.
Won't you look where you're going?
Morning, sir.
Dropped a rock on my toe last week and it's gone
Is she
flat.
following me? What? You want something from me?
What I think happened there is that I either walked too quickly past an NPC, which is ridiculous, or I was following an NPC, which they don't like, and I'm disturbing the peace. And I'm in the middle of the city, I don't want to run away. So I just let the cops come so I can get arrested, just to make it easier, and then this happens.
Whoa now! These premises are off limits to you.
It's all good. Calm down.
Do as I say or there'll be trouble for you.
No need to get all worked up over this.
By the way, I was never warned off those premises before, and that slightest touch on the police officer made him hostile. Out of all the minor issues I have with the game, this is probably the most major one for me personally. And it's just an animation miss, but in a game that's full of detail and great animations, missing this one becomes jarring and frustrating over time. And it's when Arthur takes the gun off his back and puts it into the saddle. As you'll see here in a second, the gun will just materialize in his hand and then he'll put it away. And then also when you get off the horse, those guns that you put into the saddle will just materialize in your back. Simple thing, but it happens all the time. I hate the duel system, and I was really looking forward to it. So you have to slightly press R2 to build up your meter, not really knowing how long you have before the enemy pulls his gun. And then, once the meter's full, you tap R2 all the way down, that'll pull out your gun, and based on how long you had it slightly held down before, you have time now to aim, and then you press R2 again. And it's terrible, pretty much. 3 different interactions with just the R2 button. Every single time I had a duel, the few times that they are in the game, I lost 3 or 4 times before I won. And I was trying to be the honourable guy shooting guns out of the hands. But in the side missions where you have to face famous gunslingers, if you shoot the guns out of their hands, like I did in this clip, they'll just attack you with a knife or something. So there's no point doing the honourable shooting, and it's just terrible. The Deadeye system's underwhelming. It's pretty much the exact same as the original game. Sometimes you'll be shooting guys off camera and you won't actually see you doing a cool animation of shooting them. You have to rely on it way too often in battles because the aiming system is bad, even with auto lock or auto assist or whatever, aim assist. And it's just disappointing and underwhelming. This clip here is about as good as it gets with the Deadeye. It's cool at times, but you have to rely on it too often. If you've just one gun out and you double tap holster weapon, he'll like spin the gun around and put it away, which is cool, but why can't you do that with 2 guns? Simple thing, why not? I don't want to be too harsh on it because when it works, which is a theme of the whole game really, but the animations carry it. Like there's so many weapons, bows and molotovs and shotguns and dual pistols, all of which you can use in first person and third person, all have animations based on the weapons that you're using. So if you run up to a guy with a shotgun point blank, Arthur will like push him back, create some distance, and blast him. If you have, if you're playing as a good guy, sometimes after you get a kill, it will cut to Arthur in almost like a freeze frame moment of like, you know, showing him being cool with the gun smoking kind of thing, which is awesome. And if you play as a bad guy, it'll be similar, but it'll be, you know, brutal executions and more gore and stuff like that. So it's all considered. Um, so yes, when it works. But again, I think there's an over reliance on the Deadeye system. If you have 5 or 6 guys in front of you, you're going to use the Deadeye to kill the most of them, the majority of them, and then trying to finish off the last guys. But yeah, the animations carry it when you shoot a guy off a horse like there, or when, you know, using particular ammo, you know, incendiary ammo and stuff like that. There's a bit of depth to it, and especially in the animations, it makes you look cool at least. But yeah, I hate the dueling system. The animals in hunting Red Dead 2 was probably my favourite aspect of the game. It's super deep. There's over 150 animals. I haven't encountered them all, but the most of the animals I have encountered I probably have a story with. Like, for example, here on this icy lake, I find a grizzly bear fighting a pack of wolves, which was probably my favourite moment in the game, and if not one of my favourite gaming moments ever. I don't have the full clip unfortunately, but I eventually shot the grizzly in the neck, which scared off the wolves, but the grizzly hadn't been killed by it, but he went away wounded. I eventually found him dying, breathing his last breaths, with his blood coming out of his neck, smoking on the ice. It was just incredible, and there's so many little encounters like that. Like, for example, here, the rams ahead of me are having a territorial battle, just headbutting each other. It's just amazing. And the rest of the clips speak for themselves here.
Christ.
Before I got Red Dead Redemption 2, I wasn't planning on getting too involved with the Dutch Van der Linde gang. Just a bunch of outlaws, and you kind of know that half of them are going to turn bad and stuff like that. So I didn't think I was going to get that involved. But then when I got my hands on the game and I realized that it's more than just the gang. There's old people, there's women and children and stuff like that, and there's camps that you have to maintain. You can do chores around the camp, you have to bring food back to the camp and stuff like that. As soon as I realized that that was the responsibility I had, there was no stopping me doing it. I was bringing back food after every trip out. I would bring back food. I would be giving donations to the camp to keep the money up. I actually made a rule that the camp should have more money than me the whole time. I even went away and did the completely aesthetic upgrades to the camp, like, you know, the get a moose antler that's above a wagon and you barely even notice it, but I did it because I wanted my crew to be happy. There's roughly 20 or so characters in the crew, and even halfway through the game I knew all their names and backstories, and they do it in such a clever way. Like, you'll see Karen, for example, going about drunk, and that her drinking habit becomes worse as the game goes on. Pearson, when you're playing a random game of poker with him, starts telling you about his past in the Navy and stuff like that. Um, all the characters were really well done, extremely well voice acted, and felt believable, authentic, real, and I loved every interaction I had with them. It was rare that they ever repeated themselves to me. They would always say something new or something topical to what was going on. Interactions that they have with each other, like Mrs. Grimshaw, the kind of mother hen of the crew, giving out to Tilly for not doing a good job, and then Tilly cursing her behind her back. And then if you overhear that conversation, you can go up to Tilly and say, "Oh, don't listen to Mrs. Grimshaw," or something like that. Stuff like that. And then they play songs together in which you can join in and start singing. You literally press a button, you can start singing with them. Like I said, you can play mini games with them, go out hunting with them, robbing with them. Um, the interactions with the crew are the heart and soul of the game, and I was very, very impressed by it, and wasn't expecting it for one, and then super impressed by it when I got into it. As for the story and the missions in it, they do get the missions anyway get a bit repetitive. You follow Mr. X, and he'll give you a bit of expositional dialogue. Get to the where you're going, shoot the bad men, and come back. But then when you do come back, you can talk to the crew that weren't on the mission and talk to them about what you just did and stuff like that. There's funny moments where you're going out drinking with buddies and make a fool of yourself. There's really dramatic moments, super emotional moments. All very well balanced and, again, super believable. Of course, not forgetting the protagonist of the game, Arthur Morgan, who's voiced by Roger Clark, who just did an astounding job of just making the character feel gritty and just felt lived in the world, or I felt lived in Arthur Morgan, if you understand me. That as the more I played with him, the more I felt I was him, if you like. I ended up taking more care of Arthur Morgan than I did myself in the real world and the crew. Um, but that's just a testament to the care that they've given to the characters and the care that they um, want you to give them. And I was happy to do it. Yeah, so from coming from a place of not really expecting much from the crew, and even knowing where some of the characters are going to go in the future, they still did a great job of subverting expectations and making it about the journey, not the destination. If I did have one gripe with Arthur Morgan, is that in some cutscenes he's a lovely guy, and in other cutscenes he's a douchebag, because of the honor system. You'd be playing as a good guy, but sometimes in the cutscenes they have to account for you might be playing as a bad guy, so kind of hard to do. And while that is a small issue, it fades away when it comes up against just the quality of the story and the characters and moments like this. So yeah, that's about it. I think Red Dead Redemption 2 is its own worst enemy. When it gets it right, it's phenomenal. But almost at every turn or every aspect of the game, there's something that's going to frustrate you or gnaw at you, kind of chips away at your enjoyment. And I didn't want it to happen. I wanted to love it, but just eventually it wore me down a little bit. And I think it's also partly because Rockstar are a victim of their own success. They've been known to make groundbreaking games, and you're expecting Red Dead Redemption 2 with all the hype and all the money and all the success, especially after GTA 5, that this is going to be stellar or a masterpiece, and it's not quite there. It's almost one, but it's not quite there. But just because they didn't achieve perfection, it doesn't mean they didn't achieve greatness, and they have made a great game here. It's just that these issues that I had started mounting up, excuse the pun, and they do take away from the overall experience, I think, in the end. Um, and also not to forget that Red Dead Online is coming. I mean, this review has been about the single player alone, and who knows, Red Dead Online might be fantastic. It's got a lot of challenges facing it to match the level of GTA 5 Online, but I'm not really expecting that, so my expectations are at a reasonable level. But, who knows, it could be brilliant and would only add to the quality of Red Dead Redemption 2. So yeah, that's about it. Hope you enjoyed the review, if you could call it that. Thanks for watching.